Hello, welcome to Captain Dorge's Armory. This is Captain Dorja, and today I'm going to be showing a video of a match I had in the IS Soviet Tier 7 Heavy. In this match I'm platooned up with Lumpy Man 01, aka Brian. Brian is fairly new to World of Tanks. He's been really enjoying the artillery. So in this replay, Brian's going to be driving his M41, and I'm going to be driving the IS. Now the IS, as I said, it's Tier 7 Soviet heavy tank, one of two, the other being the KV-3. Now, the KV-3 is the larger, slower, more tanky version. The IS is the smaller, lighter, faster, not quite as resilient version. I really like the IS. It's a fun tank to drive. It's typical of the more lighter, mobile Soviet heavy line. If we take a quick look at the tech tree here, as you can see, starting from the KV-1, the Soviet tech tree branches off into two heavy tank lines, and you have the T-150, KV-3, KV-4, ST-1, and IS-4. Those are the slower, more heavily armored options. Or you can go to the KV-1S, to the IS, to the IS-3, IS-8, IS-7. And that is the quicker, more lightly armored line of Soviet heavies. And once you get to the KV-1S, basically all five of these tanks play fairly similar. None of them are very particularly well armored, except for the IS-3 and the IS-7, which are both pretty well armored. But the KV-1S, the IS, and the IS-8 certainly are quite lightly armored, very, very mobile. The KV-1S almost has the mobility of a medium tank. The IS, not quite as mobile, but it's still one of the more agile heavy tanks in the game. Certainly more agile than the KV-3 by a long shot. These tanks are just very, very aggressive, close quarters, brutal, brawling machines. Basically, the idea behind them is you encounter the enemy and you fire at them, and your one shot does a massive amount of damage to them. And then as you reload your gun, you charge into point blank range, poke your nose around the corner, blast the enemy again, and they die, and you continue moving forward onto the next enemy. That's the general idea with this class of tanks. You just push, 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 and force your giant gun down their throat. Now, the gun on the IS is pretty good for a Tier 7, but it's not without weaknesses. It's not particularly rapid firing, 4.88 rounds per minute, and you can see my crew is at 100%, so I don't have like a 50% crew or anything. The damage is very good though, so your low rate of fire is made up for by really high alpha damage, 390 average. That is balanced with terrible accuracy, 0.46, long aiming time, 3.4 seconds, and moderate penetration of 175. So essentially with this gun, you want to be firing at targets that are within 100 meters, 200 meters maximum. You do not want to be wasting time shooting at anything farther away than that. Against Tier 5s and 6s, you'll have no problem penetrating, but against Tier 7, 8, and 9, you're going to be taking a much more careful aim. The IS does fine against Tier 7s. Most of them don't have enough armor to really challenge the penetration of this gun, but when you start having to fight Tier 8s with it, it begins to get difficult to penetrate, and when you get into a Tier 9 match, the IS is really in trouble because of its low penetration and because of the fact that it likes to fight at point blank range. And just for example, point blank range on an E75 is not an environment where this tank will stay alive for very long. Now, even if you use premium ammo in the IS, your penetration only goes up to the level of a T-29 standard AP. So you can see that the penetration on this gun is an issue against Tier 9s and against some of the more heavily armored Tier 8s. So now that we've taken a little bit of a look at the vehicle, we'll point out one or two other things before we go into battle. My crew, my original IS crew, moved on to the IS-3 and then onto the IS-4 when it was the Tier 9, and then into the IS-7 a long time ago. So this is not my original crew, but repairs on the IS are basically required. To combat the slow rate of fire, a large caliber tank gun rammer is definitely advised. To help with the horrific aiming time, enhanced gun laying drive is mandatory. And improved ventilation is a really good idea because of the horrible reload time, the horrible aiming time. It'll help your driver with the agility of the vehicle, which is good. It'll help your commander's view range. It'll help your gunner fire more accurately. It's just, there are so many things on this tank that are really good, and improved ventilation boosts all those good attributes and makes them better. And there are so many things on this tank that need improvement, like gun accuracy, gun aiming time, gun reload speed, and improved ventilation makes it better. So vents are highly advised. Right now, we've spent enough time in the garage. Let's move on to the battle here. We'll take a look at this match. This match was it was a fun match, but it was very frustrating, and you'll see why when I get in there. So let's cut on to the match now. So here we are on a standard battle on Malinovka. It's a Tier 8 match, a very even matchmaker. Both teams have two artillery, 4 Tier 6s, 4 Tier 7s, 4 Tier 8s, and a Panzer IV. In terms of the matchmaker, I think we got slightly better artillery. We got an M41 and a Gorilla. They got a Gorilla and an SU-5. But, point of note, Lumpy Man 01 here, aka Brian, in his M41, is not upgraded. So he does not have the top gun for his M41. So he is a Tier 8 artillery, or a Tier 5 artillery, but he's not a fully upgraded Tier 5 artillery. So the match begins. Malinovka, the hill is critical, and if you look at the team setup, our team has more and better fast tanks. We have a Type 59, that's quite a fast tank. The T-32 is pretty quick. My IS is quick, our T-20 is quick, and our T-34-85 is quick. The enemy have an IS, 2 SU-122 44s, an EZ-8, and a Type 58 as their quick tanks. So I'm thinking we should be able to beat them to the hill. But the problem we'll probably encounter is we should be able to get up to the hill first, but when their heavy push rolls up with that KV-5 and those 2 Super Pershings, those tanks can really take a beating, and they have the firepower easily to kill off mediums and Tier 7 heavies. So I'm not worried about taking the hill, I'm worried about weathering the storm up there and being able to start pushing down off it. As you can see right now, we have a lot of people coming into the woods, but me and this Type 59 are the only ones who appear to have any interest in pushing up onto the hill. Lumpy Man is down in the forest, ready to provide artillery fire as we come up over the hill. I'm here to back up the Type 59 so he doesn't just get smoked all by himself. And as he crests the hill, we have first contact with the enemy. We encounter the Type 58, no problem. The Panzer IV, no problem. And the SU-122 44. Now that's bad. So I immediately primary the SU-122. Those things have really well sloped armor. It's only like 90 millimeters thick, but it's really well sloped. So I take pretty careful aim with my shot, knowing that the IS has a gun with fairly low penetration. So take careful aim, rewarded with a large hit. The SU-122 backs off, but just long enough to reload and fire at me. Luckily, his shot bounced, and you can see we're raining artillery down on him pretty hard. I put another shell into him. He's now almost dead, and our reinforcements have arrived. T-29, T-32, and behind them, T-34 and Tiger II. So things are looking good for us. That enemy guerrilla just put a decent hit onto me and blew off my tracks, and I wasn't going to sit detracked in the open. So I choose to use my repair kit. The SU-5 takes my tracks off again. I lose a little more HP. But my track is repaired and I'm now safe. So, with these two Super Pershings here, I'm going to have problems penetrating their armor because they have the multi-layered spaced armor. It's very resilient. I don't have the extreme penetration required to just blast straight through all their laser spaced armor. And I don't really have the accuracy to be firing at their weak points from anything other than point blank range. So most of what I'm going to try to do over here is I'm going to try to spot. Now, I linger up on top of this little rise for a minute because there's nothing that can fire at me, and in the second that there is something to fire at me, I get my track blown off by the artillery. So I wait for it to repair before backing up. Now I'm mostly just spotting here, but I do want to try and get hits in on these Super Pershings as often as possible. Now that desire to put in hits has resulted in me losing all of my health. I'm now down to 270. I'm basically a one-shot. Almost everything in the match can one-shot me. So it's time to start being a little more careful. I just need to keep things spotted so that Lumpy Man can work on it with his M41. And every now and then I'll take a pot shot at these Super Pershings and see if I can add some damage. But at this kind of a range, 200 meters, with them hull down on the ridgeline and with foliage cover to obscure aiming, with the inaccurate gun on the IS, it's going to be, if I damage them, it's not going to be skill-based, it's going to be luck-based. Mostly I'm just trying to keep them spotted and keep alive. So you can see the Super Pershings are just poking the ridgeline. We have a T-32 who's actually firing HE at them, and that made me pretty upset. Or, I think, it was the T-32. Maybe it was actually the T-34, but either way, both of them have the gun accuracy to hit those Super Pershings. And the reason why it was so annoying was because the guy fired HE and did 22 damage. And then I fired an AP round and did 408. This kind of a situation, if you're going to be firing, fire your AP rounds on the off chance that they go in, like that. I just put a 426 damage hit on that KB5. That was total luck. But if I'd fired, it would have probably taken me 10 AG rounds to do that much damage. And I just did it with one lucky AP round. So even in a situation like this, where you're probably not going to do any damage, it's better to stick with AP and essentially hope for luck than it is to switch to HE and just throw away everything. Now, you may have noticed that I've been pinging the map. And you may have noticed that our base is completely empty. I've noticed this as well, but I'm just going to pause here for a minute. The reason why I'm not going down to defend the base is look at my position and my health. I have 272 HP left, and I am the second farthest person away from the base. Right down near the base, here at E7, we have 3 full health vehicles. Pardon my French, but none of those 3 cockwaffles seem to have any interest in the base. They really are going to make me, in a one-shotable IS, who is as far away from the base as humanly possible, drive all the way back there and defend. So, map awareness rant mostly completed. Time to continue. So I'm pressing forward, trying to get somebody to go do their job so that I can go do mine. But we can't have players doing their job. That would be preposterous. Right now, what I need to be doing is, in company with the people on the hill, I need to be pushing into the enemy base. Those two idiots down there in the T-20 and the Jagdpanzer IV and the Panzer IV, they need to be going down and defending a tank commander in the T-20, Tom Bad and Kells. If any of you three ever watch this, you need to work on it. Your map awareness skills suck. Right, so it is obvious to me now that literally no one except me wants to win this match. So, carry IS mode is engaged, and I am now driving all the way down the hill and back to the base. You can see the Panzer IV has gotten his head out of his butt and is now reacting to the threat. Lumpy Man is running because the T-34 was last spotted in the woods, and he wants to stay alive so he can continue to provide fire support for us. Now, he has provided pretty good fire support, so I want him to stay alive as well. You may have noticed a few minutes ago. No, now I just said it. Scout base or I start shooting blues. I'm to the point right now where pure liquid hate is spewing from every orifice, and I would rather, if required, shoot my own team to get them to move. Because they're not moving. We need to be able to have eyes on the base if we're going to defend it, and we can't even see the base. This T-34 just snuck up on us. That's not good. The KV-2 trying to get into the base has been sniped by the Jagdpanzer IV. That is good. The T-34, stupidly, is going after the Panzer IV and letting an IS pour fire into his rear. Now, unlucky for me, I managed to hit the back of his turret, which is really, really well armored. So my second shot actually bounced, but not going to make that mistake on my third shot. So while that T-34 went after an easy kill, he's allowed himself to lose all his health to a one-shotable IS and a T-20. If he'd taken me down, it would have preserved 700 of his HP to fight that T-20. He might have been able to have swung the match for his team right there just by killing us. And honestly, in a situation like this, he should have been capping, but I don't know what that guy was thinking. There was a lot of fail in this match, on my team and on the enemy team. When you're in a Tier 8 match and you're IS, and you have 270 health, and you have to go carry mode and drive all the way across the map to save your base, that means your team is seriously dropping the ball. Now, the good thing is, with the advent of the KV-2 that drove into our base and the T-34 driving back up the hill at us, it's kind of shocked these two morons into action, and they're now moving, and they're now actually doing a good job. And we have secured our base. You can see the three enemies left they're running away. They're now trying to secure their base. We only have a T-29 and a T-34 attacking them, so and it's actually not that unlikely that the Tiger and the SC-122 could take them down, except that the Tiger is horribly out of position and the SC-122 is dead. So we managed to win the match, but if you want to be good at this game, the first thing you need to learn is map awareness. You also need to learn your role on individual maps. It would have been good for that T-20 to be at the top of the hill. The Jagdpanzer IV was in a good place for a Jagdpanzer IV. In a match like this, you can't expect much of a JP4. and he managed to ninja 4 kills, so he actually probably did more than we had any right to expect. But anyway, ranting aside, that turned out to be a really good match. Putting down 3,000 damage in a tier 8 match with an IS is pretty good. Lumpy Man had a really good game in his M41. He did a lot of damage. He was providing really good fire support up onto the hill. So, Muppets who can't read the map aside, that was actually a pretty awesome match. So, that was Captain Dorge's Armory. And just remember, guys, you can never have enough big guns.